Welcome back to The Fire Rises, guys, the mod that dares to ask the question, what if our world leaders took advice from the local crackhead? So since last time I played as Biden, I want to see what the other side is like as Trump. So when Trump delivers his 2020 State of the Union, this time I say he's cooking so we can see his vision for America and how he wants to change the world as it descends into World War III. But speaking of World War III, I've been sponsored to tell you about another game that's all about fighting that. Introducing Conflict of Nations, a PvP strategy game where you can play nations around the globe to try and dominate the world. You can lead a country and build up its army of tanks, jets, or other modern weapon systems to wage warfare in the modern age against up to 128 players over weeks in real time. But you don't have to fight everyone. You can also make alliances and choose your own strategy to win over your opponents. Conflict of Nations is available cross-platform on PC and mobile for free, and if you sign up with my link down below or by scanning the QR code on screen, you'll get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium. But that bonus is only for 30 days, so redeem it soon. Now, back to the other World War III game. Things mostly start the same as Trump, having to deal with Corona infecting the country and the death of the Saudi king causing an oil crisis. Trump is bleeding popularity as COVID spreads, and it's impossible to contain it with the mass budget we have. But knowing him, it can't be his fault.
No.
Why?
Because I'm all out of money!
Then of course, we have the summer riots when the police kill an unarmed black man. With nationwide protests across major cities, Trump's approval rating continues to drop, with little I can do to counter it. One thing I'm wondering as I look around the map to contain COVID is what is up with these mask costs? You're telling me Iowa needs 44,000 masks, while Nevada needs 5,000. And don't get me started on Arizona, who needs almost as many masks as half of Texas, or 6 times the amount of Florida. Like, okay, I get that Florida doesn't need that many because they don't believe COVID is even happening, but are they wiping their asses with the masks in Arizona? Because they should not need that many. Actually, wait. I remember, this was the time when everybody was hoarding toilet paper, so maybe that's actually what they're doing. Protesters are planning a big demonstration in front of the White House, and Trump has to talk it out with them to avoid it. The movement is successfully dissuaded from carrying out the siege, but the damage has already been done to Trump's campaign. His approval is in the toilet, and with only a month until the election, it's over. When November hits, although the votes take a while to count, the picture's clear, and the media says Biden has won the 2020 election. But Trump's not going to accept this result. Just because he had a low approval doesn't mean people aren't going to vote for him. The Democrats had to have cheated. Even as the Republican Party abandons him, he doesn't lose hope. He tries the peaceful route, sending his best lawyers, but the judges, clearly paid off by the deep state, ignore every argument just because they don't have good evidence. Mike Pence delivered the final treasonous blow in certifying Biden's win, and when Trump's crowd of patriots tried to prevent it, they were met with bullets. So clearly, peace wasn't an option anymore. If Trump would not be given the presidency he so deserved, he'd have to take it by force. After Biden's inauguration, the plotting began, but not just in Trump's camp. Other very serious organizations started forming too. Biden declared a state of emergency to deal with all the extremist groups forming around the country, but it was too late. The 2020 election had sparked something deep within the country, a flame of rebellion that was too powerful to put out, and now the fire rises all over America.
He said it! He said it!
July 2021. Trump's American constitutional government takes over most of the Midwest, and we can see Trump's focus tree. But first, we need to establish a new capital in Denver, Colorado. Why did he choose a state that he lost by 14 points? Well, he didn't end up here by him making the best of choices, okay? The actual fighting will start soon, and we need to make sure our troops are led by our best generals. When it comes to our military, we are at a significant disadvantage since most of the Air Force sided with Biden. Peace wasn't an option anymore, and the fighting broke out on August 19th. Biden begins with a massive offensive against me, and I can't do much to respond. Not just because of all the planes bombing me, but because of the mod lagging so much. How do people with weaker PCs play this mod? I'm imagining someone trying the Civil War on a simple office computer and just ending up like... Since Pence betrayed him, Trump needs a new vice president, and I make the lore-accurate choice here. But then Trump gets an unexpected call from Mike Pence. Him and other establishment conservatives are trying to return to Trump's circle after realizing the truth about Washington, but these men have already shown Trump their poor judgment once by betraying him. And if these men truly wised up, they would have known better than to come back here for forgiveness. So after a few months of fighting, I managed to prevent Biden from making any major breakthroughs, and I was trying to cut Chicago off from the rest of the Union of America. The AI seemed to be well aware of how bad this would be and fought so hard to stop me from reaching Lake Michigan. It took a few weeks of trying, but finally, our infantry reached the shores of the lake and cut the city off. Getting this pocket was great, but now I had to hold it. I could barely supply my units this far, and the Union of America was doing everything they could to free Chicago from my siege. Now, you may wonder, why am I trying to siege the city instead of taking it immediately? And that's because the troops in the city still had local supply, and my militia cannot take the city when we got things like this flying around. I did manage to isolate some units around Milwaukee, but on the coast, the pressure proves to be too much for my units, and the Union reconnects with Chicago. The Union launches a counteroffensive and forces me all the way back to Illinois, but they overextend a bit too much and I cut off two actually good divisions. In the middle of this fighting, Elon Musk has come to support our cause and government, promising us his vast financial resources, which I desperately need to buy equipment. After stopping their attack, they thinned out their lines in Indiana, so I think maybe I can go for a wider offensive through Indiana into Indianapolis and then go north to cut off Chicago again. This offensive unfortunately didn't go very far, with the Union quickly reinforcing the state, but that wasn't all. They started their own offensive into Missouri. St. Louis was under threat, and militia was raised to protect it. If that city fell, I would lose the whole state, and would probably have to abandon Illinois too. The progress being made in Missouri was too concerning to ignore, but it presented an opportunity. I shifted my best units to attack along the Mississippi River, and if they pushed to Arkansas, they could cut off a great amount of the Union's army and shift the initiative back into my favor. I did have to strip other parts of the front for units to be able to do this offensive, so the Union took advantage of that and pushed out from Chicago. But that was a small price to pay, as long as I kept my eyes on the prize. And after 3 months of attacking, the dream was reality. With that, it was over for the Union of America. Not only because we are destroying most of their good army that knows how to fight, but also the fascist leaders in Michigan and New England have started their own invasion. Now fighting a war on 3 fronts, the Union could barely put up any troops against me. And those militia were just a speed bump against my veteran soldiers. For so long, I fought to get Chicago, and now I was gonna enter the city without a fight. With that city cut off, their army disintegrated as I pushed eastwards across the Appalachians. By the time I reached Virginia, there wasn't even an army left to fight me. Trump's forces entered Washington, D.C. unopposed, and I noticed that Kamala Harris is now the president. In the final days, I can't help but wonder if Joe Biden just took himself out. With our main opponent down, it was time to start reintegrating the rest of the country. While the crooked Democrats may be the ones who started this war, there are some sane voices worth keeping around, like Robert Kennedy. Now, despite Trump taking power in a completely fair civil war, there are still those who want to resist him. But Trump has ways to deal with unpatriotic activity. While this happens, the military goes west to secure the Rockies from rebel forces. With Trump's mission to crush the deep state, he needs the best, so that's where Tulsi Gabbard comes in. After Nevada was pacified, we caught a bit of a break since Texas and the Southwest were ready to rejoin us. It was time to look south because things were getting weird there.
Oh, I'm a good old rebel, now that's just what I am. And for this Yankee nation, I do not give a damn.
Confederates versus Atomwaffen. The casual racist versus a competitive racist. This is a battle for the ages. I was gonna invade the Confederates first, but then the fascists pulled the trigger on me before I had a chance, so I was at war with the fascists in Michigan, New England, and Atomwaffen. I focused on Michigan first, and when those LARPers had to fight a real army, they didn't have a chance. The Patriot Front made some concerning gains, but I could pull troops I had stationed to fight the Confederacy and move them over to stabilize the Northeast. The Nazis, who had chosen to fight against me in Michigan, were condemned to die in a random forest at the tip of the peninsula. The Patriot Front stalemated against me when all the militia stood against them, and then when my actual troops arrived, they folded like a cardboard box. The message should be clear to all Nazis. America isn't theirs to conquer. As for Atomwaffen, well, once I joined, my state government allies helped the Confederacy take down the last of those Nazis, and then I could annex all of them. Confederacy definitely made fighting the Nazis easier for us, but Trump had to have a talk with them.
Heroes have to make sacrifices. That's why when I ask you for one more, I hope you understand. It was never personal.
Now came the part I really don't look forward to, invading California. I definitely prepared for it more than I did last time, but still, invading California in this mod is like going to the DMV. A very unpleasant experience all around, and you're there for way longer than you plan to be. I do have a decision to boost my offensive power in the state, so I have to make the most of it. I blast through the commie lines around Bakersfield to cut off Los Angeles from the rest of the state. When it comes to clearing that city, even though I know what I'm in for, I still hate it. Who on that GitHub looked at Los Angeles and was like, yep, can't tell where my units are in the city, push it? At least the rest of the state was a lot easier to clear, and after securing the Bay Area, the American People's Liberation Army surrendered. The last rebel group is the Northwestern Red Army, and while they definitely gave it their all, it was just delaying the inevitable. After almost 4 years of civil war, America had been reunified under Trump's American constitutional government. We had new focuses to go through, and while I'm a bit disappointed the post-unification ones are the exact same as Biden's, we got some fun ones to go through on the way. With America reunited, the IMF wasted no time reminding us what's up.
You got some money for me, boy? I've seen your name in our ledger.
To ensure peace and stability, Trump embraced stratocracy. And the libertarian faction in our government, who at this point are like the fell for it again world champions, finally had enough of Trump's strongly executive way of governing, which they had the gall to call tyrannical. These troublemakers only stand in the way of Trump making America great again, so he had them taken care of. This focus purges all libertarian advisors, which does include Elon Musk, so maybe this focus path ain't all bad. So since there really isn't much to do as Trump after Unite the Country, I'm going to go against his character a bit and actually make a good effort attempt to help Ukraine and Europe at large against Russia. By the time American volunteers arrived, Russia had ran over eastern Ukraine, but NATO was holding strong everywhere else. I began my offensive into Belarus, but then my soldiers received some troubling news.
That's your daughter. You know she gets that from you.
Yep, the Russians were launching chemical gas attacks across Europe. We had to stop them. The American troops were driving into the heart of Belarus, loaded with so much AA that the Russian planes could barely scratch them. There was a lot of back and forth in the area, but we kept encircling more and more Russian divisions in the region that by January there was no Russian center. I could drive American troops back into Ukraine almost completely unopposed. When the snow started melting, the Russian army started melting with it. NATO's overwhelming numbers are cutting off and killing Russian divisions left and right. As American forces led the liberation in Kiev and were finishing off the straggling soldiers in the city, the Russians finally decided it wasn't worth it anymore. Meanwhile, back in America,
Probable anti-citizen. Keep those hands up!
Wait! Don't shoot!
Trump had firmly established his power through the barrel of a gun. The military was totally cool with this and didn't coup him, so America was now back in business and ready to officially step back on the world stage. To send a message to the world that America was truly back, he did the most American thing he could: send military support to Israel. Like buffoons, Israeli soldiers kept trying to siege Gaza. But me, a true military mastermind, no, you gotta take the place immediately. Egypt couldn't stand for this, and declared war on Israel without any troops to fight them, so really don't know what they were planning here. I literally just drove through Egypt for free and got Israel the Sinai Peninsula. Now I just had to deal with Syria and Hezbollah. My divisions were pretty cracked after destroying the Russians for 6 months, so they destroyed Hezbollah easily. I left Lebanon to go through the Golan Heights and push Syria, but as soon as I left, the Syrian army flooded Lebanon and steamrolled the Israelis. Before I'd even time to respond to what the Syrians were doing, Israel was overrun, and it wasn't gonna end well here. Now, to get back to following real-life lore, Trump starts planning for invading Canada. If the Canadians truly didn't want to be a part of this great nation, then they would have fought harder against it. Trump's eyes then turned south. If we were to truly secure the border against a flood of illegals and drugs, then we must launch a military invasion into Mexico to bring order and peace to the area. The decartelization of Mexico is a success, and then Trump thinks it's about time for America to take the Panama Canal back. So American troops continue southwards into Central America. I was considering wrapping things up at this point, but then I saw Korea popping off, and I couldn't resist. Right now, the war was just between North and South Korea, so I could have a lot of impact before China intervened. I not only sent them volunteers, but also lend-leased them some planes so they could help secure their own skies. I was able to send a lot more planes than I expected, and when my divisions touched the North Korean front line, they actually disintegrated in front of me. I take back what I said last video about not being able to make a good template. This is what my main divisions look like right now, and they just roll everything, even under complete red air. I cut off a bunch of North Koreans from Pyongyang and killed them on the coast. This leaves the western part of the country very barren, so I can push through Pyongyang and then swing east to kill the rest of the North Korean army. I was actually blown away with how successful I was here. Within a month of US boots touching South Korean soil, the North Korean army ceased to exist and Korea was officially united. China didn't even have a chance to help. They just started their focus branch to help North Korea, and before they even finished the second focus, that country was gone. So China declared war on Korea in response, starting the Great Asian War. I sent volunteers to most of the participants of this war against China so I could actually make big moves against the Chinese. Altogether, I had about 22 divisions as volunteers, and I sent them all to Korea to push into Manchuria. Although my divisions are cracked, they still struggle in mountains, so the Chinese can delay me for a long time in them. I have my air volunteers provide cast support, but the AA losses are so crazy, I can run it for maybe a month at a time. While my main focus is Manchuria, the front is such a slog with the mountains, so my troops went on a brief side quest to liberate Taiwan. The Japanese made a landing in the north, so I reinforced them to help finish the job. With American planes flying overhead, the Chinese didn't stand a chance against superior American forces. Those divisions then returned to Manchuria to reinforce a new landing made in Dalian. I finally broke past the Manchurian mountains, but then I reached another obstacle: supply. And the Chinese had stopped me right in front of a new supply hub. There was, however, one in the south. I had broken through the mountain range there and blitzed for Shenyang. With that city taken, things sped up quickly on the Manchurian front, and I can't imagine Xi Jinping was taking it well.
Oh no, this can't be.
JD Vance is driving to Beijing, and it's not a matter of if, but when he's gonna get there. Once that city was secured, some tanks drove north to Mongolia to cut off the Chinese units still in Manchuria from the rest of the country. They then worked with Japanese and Korean forces to clean up the region, and the casualty reports were looking rough for China. Even a country this large couldn't take losses at this rate. When Manchuria was mostly cleaned up, I left the AI to finish the job so I could focus on my next objective to push into the Chinese heartland. The Chinese army is a lot easier to fight on a wide front, and Xi is looking like he's gonna peace out soon since the Chinese war support is abysmal right now. I destroy another Chinese army in the Shaanxi Mountains and continue my push southwards to reach Nanjing. As American troops begin the assault on the city, the Chinese finally tap out of the war, and the Pacific Defense Organization really mauled China in the peace deal. And with that, I think I'm done with the campaign. Yeah, Dugan is invading Europe right now, but I'm gonna appeal to reality and say that Europe should defend themselves. This was a fun campaign though. Although I wish Trump had more special things to do after unifying the country, I really am enjoying the Fire Rises. Next time I play, I'll definitely check out a different country. Also, if any dev is listening, I appreciate you nerfing the base reinforced chance. That definitely helped the combat feel better, but please nerf the reinforced chance from this doctrine tech to 5%, because fighting anybody with this doctrine is super unfun still. Y'all also need to nerf the air attack regular guns have, because that's why the plane losses from AA are so high. You really see the effects of it in China, because the losses you take are so bad. I needed 120 factories on planes to keep up. So please, reduce the air attack to like 0.05, okay? And that's all for feedback. Keep up the good work. If y'all enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like so other people will see this video too. If you want to go the extra mile and support my content directly, since these videos take a long time to make, join my alumni on Patreon so it can continue to prioritize making the high quality videos you enjoy. Thank you to my alumni on Patreon supporting my schizo dreams, and I shall hopefully see y'all again with my mega campaign. If you haven't seen it yet, you should check it out. It's peak. Thanks again to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring this video. If you want to play a free online strategy game where you conquer the world fighting against real players, check them out. Do it through my link below or QR code on screen and get yourself 13,000 gold and a month of premium if you sign up within 30 days.